I want to say that this chamber has been a great inspiration for us. Involved with some other chambers out in our area that have been a big disappointment. It's amazing to see how engaged everybody is by the number of people here early in the mornings like this for the breakfast. And you got a vibrant business community here, and it's a tribute to all the people here that work so hard for that. So we're glad to be here, and we look forward to a long relationship in this area. I'm here because of Mike Wolf. Many of you know Mike. He's been an active member of the chamber for many years. He's a postmaster in Mechanic Falls. He's an investor in my company. In fact, he was the first investor, and he's been a childhood friend. He kept saying to me that it's happening here or something like that, and he's right. It is, so we're glad to be here. Water is a complex issue, and we could talk for hours about many of the subjects related to water. I don't have that much time. Chip gave me about 8 minutes, so I got to rush through this pretty quickly. I'm going to touch on some of these issues. It'll be somewhat fragmented, but hopefully it'll provoke some thought on some of these things. I'll talk first about the non-controversial things that are pretty obvious, the facts, so to speak, and then we'll touch on some of the controversial stuff later. The percentage of water on Earth and the percentage of water in the human body are almost identical at around 72%. We are water creatures. Water is the very essence of our life and all life. Our blood, our tissues, muscles, joints, organs, etc. is mostly water. You don't hear of many people going on thirst strikes to get their point across because you'd be delirious in 24 hours and dead in about 48. That's how important water is. Other than breathing, there's nothing we do more often than drink. In fact, the very act of breathing dehydrates us. The Earth is the blue planet, as described by the astronauts from outer space. The oceans are a mile deeper than Mount Everest at their deepest point. All of the water on Earth, 97%, is salt water and not drinkable. Of the remaining 3%, that is fresh water, 2% is locked in the polar ice caps north and south, leaving only 1% of all the water on Earth potentially drinkable. Of that 1%, vast amounts are contaminated or in one form or another. Our survival hinges on a very small amount of fresh water. There is no more water on Earth today than there was millions of years ago. We live in a bubble, our atmosphere, and all water on Earth is part of the hydrologic cycle. Evaporation, transpiration, clouds, rain, and repeat. The big problem is there are a lot more people on Earth now. In the 1800s, when Summit Spring was first sold, there were 1 billion people on the planet Earth. We are now at 6.5 billion. We're adding roughly 1 billion people to the Earth every 10 years, and these numbers could escalate dramatically as there's a large number of young individuals now. Human beings use a lot of water. Easy numbers to calculate: 100 gallons per person per day. Average household, 4 individuals, 2 parents, 2 kids, equals 12,000 gallons of water per month per household. Modern shower heads are even low-flow design, 2.5 gallons a minute. One 20-minute shower consumes 50 gallons of water. Our typical home customer at Summit Spring is 4 or 5 gallon jugs a month. That 20 gallons of drinking water represents only 0.2% of the typical household water consumption in an entire month. You think oil is rare? Water is always compared to the price of a gallon of gas, which I really don't understand. Nobody talks about how you're putting 30 gallons of gas into a tank in your car. What would the price of gas be if you had to buy it in half-liter bottles? Not to mention that there are alternative fuels, but there is no alternative to water. Water is becoming so scarce that new housing develops out places like Las Vegas. The developer must first secure the water rights for those houses he intends to build before construction can even begin. Bottled water consumption in this country has grown at double-digit rates for more than 15 years. Last year it slowed to around 9.7%. 2006 was a milestone for bottled water as it became the second most consumed beverage in America, more than coffee, tea, milk, and juices. There is universal belief that in a very short period of time, water will become the number one consumed beverage, surpassing the only category left, which is carbonated soft drinks, whose growth is flat and declining as consumers are choosing bottled water as a refreshing, hydrating beverage and an alternative to others that may contain calories, caffeine, sugar, artificial colors and flavors, alcohol, or other ingredients which they wish to moderate or avoid. Why do you think Coke and Pepsi got into the bottled water business? If you think somehow that this is just a trend confined to the United States, guess again. We are actually only number 10 in the worldwide per capita bottled water consumption. We consume only half of what the number one country, Italy, consumes, followed by the United Arab Emirates, Mexico, France, Belgium, Germany, Spain, Lebanon, Switzerland, and then the United States. There are many countries in the world where people would not even think of drinking the tap water. China, in its unabated quest for economic growth, has poisoned nearly every river, lake, and stream in the country. I read the other day that a vast majority of fish are being turned back because of poisoning. Millions and millions of people have no access to clean, safe drinking water. There was actually talk of moving the city of Beijing due to water issues. Australia is in the grips of a decade-long drought with reservoirs at about 10% of capacity, and it is now constructing the largest desalination plant in the world. The western U.S. is in its 7th year of drought, and if you've been watching the news lately, they say the fires are going to burn all summer long. The Colorado River is one of the only rivers in the world never to reach the ocean due to excess withdrawals. These issues are only going to get worse, and they are global in nature. Water is the cornerstone of a healthy lifestyle. Water, as pure as possible, is what your body needs every day. We don't need Gatorade per se, Monster Energy drink, Red Bull, and the like, unless you're an athlete in competition. All are loaded with sugar, caffeine, and artificial colors and flavors. Everything you add to water lowers the hydrating capability of it. Mixing all of them together, as in soda, lowers the hydrating potential to near zero. Vitamin water, for example, is packaged hot to blend the ingredients, and because of this, it requires preservatives to prevent it from spoiling. These preservatives outweigh the benefit of the vitamins. Anytime you flavor water, it masks the original source and allows a manufacturer to use lousy water because no one can taste it. What is hard to do is provide just water by itself, without additives. Great tasting water, even at room temperature, as you're drinking it here. Because cold also masks the flavor of beverages. The colder the beverage, the worse the product can be. I'd like to talk on some of the controversial issues, but I'm out of time, so. Tap water versus spring water. Water is water, right? Wrong. It's like saying beer is beer, and we all know there's a great difference between them. Is tap water safe? The United States, in the short term, yes. In the long term, I'm not so sure. Bottled water as an industry has always had this informal, hands-off approach to tap water. They never discuss the difference between the two, and I personally think this is a big mistake. I believe there's a huge difference between tap water and real spring water. Tap water is heavily treated water taken primarily from surface water supplies, which is important. Lakes, rivers, streams, exposed to many modern-day contaminants, including effluent discharge from cities up the river. There's the joke in London that when you drink the water in London, it's already been drunk 10 times or 8 times, and it happens to be about 8 cities up the river that actually treat their water and dump the effluent into the river that London uses for their tap water. Treated and loaded with chlorine and fluoride and piped miles to your home through a deteriorating infrastructure, much of which was built during the Lincoln administration. Fluoride, I don't want to touch too. This is a real hot issue, but I just want to tell you this. The majority of Europe does not fluoridate. Germany has a specific law that prohibits fluoridation under the guise mass medication of a society against their will. Fluoride is a toxin, and it is an ingredient in rat poison. It is extremely toxic in larger doses. Fluoride is great for your teeth. I won't argue that. I think we should brush with it, we should rinse with it, we should have the dentist apply it, but we should spit it out afterwards. Don't ingest it, because I don't know what's next. Maybe we should drink shampoo because it's good for your hair. Chlorine. Back in the 1900s, chlorine was a great disinfectant when waterborne diseases were prevalent. As time has passed, that time has passed, and safer alternatives are available. The majority of public water systems in the United States still use chlorine to prevent bacterial growth in aging water pipes and infrastructure. Chlorine is a double-edged sword, where even low amounts are detrimental to human and animal health. It is widely considered an air pollutant at a mere 1 part per million. Inhaling levels like 300 parts per million for 30 minutes can be fatal to humans. Chlorine is both toxic and it's an irritant to the skin, and this was put to great use in World War I as an ingredient in mustard gas. Studies indicate that consumption of chlorinated water is linked to significantly increased rates of bladder, colon, and rectal cancer. One researcher recently has noted that chlorine-related toxins may be proven in the future to be the most important environmental carcinogen in terms of the number of attributable cancers per year. There is now even more concern about inhalation and transdermal absorption of chlorine in the shower than from actually drinking chlorinated water. Filters on shower heads of individuals who bathe in chlorinated water are fast becoming a very strong recommendation. Real spring water is nature's gift, purified naturally and possessing of a perfect balance of essential minerals, also known as nutrients: calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, in trace quantities that give the water such a unique flavor and sweetness, the taste that man-made machinery tries to replicate but never achieves. The reason for the growth in the bottled water industry is because spring water is better for you than tap water, plain and simple. People can taste the difference, smell the difference, and when is the last time you've ever heard of anybody getting sick from drinking bottled water? Bottled water is exactly what people drink when municipal supplies are tainted. Bottled water is exactly what people turn to in the most desperate of times, like in the aftermath of Katrina. However, this is the dilemma. All bottled water is not the same. Just because it comes in a clear bottle does not make it better than tap water. In fact, many bottled waters are just tap water. In the early days, just about all the water that came in these bottles was spring water. People gravitated towards the great spring water in a bottle. Now people mistakenly think that everything that comes in a clear bottle is spring water. The demand for spring water has far outstripped available supply, and the government and large industry saw this coming. So with the encouragement of major suppliers and the International Bottled Water Association, which I don't agree with, the FDA in 1999 loosened the definition of spring water so that essentially just about anything can qualify as such. Consequently, there has been a proliferation of marketing claims and bogus stories about the location and or the quality of sources of water. Source labeling requirements vary from state to state. Maine is pretty strict. The federal government is not. The federal government does not even require the source to be placed on the bottle. Bottles with fancy pictures of mountains and streams that could not be any further from the truth. In many cases, spring water is not even on the label, but an uninformed public buys it up anyway at an incredible rate. Aquafina, Dasani, and Fiji, 2 municipal tap waters and an artesian well water, 3 of the largest sellers in America. The age-old spring water definition was this: water derived from an underground formation from which water flows naturally to the surface. Very easy to understand, beautiful in its simplicity. In 1999, they felt that they needed to clarify that by adding this language: or through a borehole, tapping the underground formation, feeding the spring. Spring water collected with the use of an external force, read pump, must be from the same underground stratum as the spring, as shown by a measurable hydraulic connection using a hydrogeologically valid method between the borehole and the natural spring, and must have all the physical properties before treatment and be of the same composition and quality as the water that flows naturally to the surface. Well, at least they cleared that up for us. The funny thing is they forgot to change the definition of well water. Water from a whole board, not to be confused with a borehole, drilled or otherwise constructed in the ground, which taps the water of an aquifer. The bottom line is this: that you, the consumer, has got to pay attention. The government is not going to help you discern the difference between great products like Summit Spring and the myriad of imitations offered for sale. Some products provide value and are worthy of higher prices. Paying 1,000% premium for tap water in a bottle over taking tap water from your tap is not very prudent or cost effective. Read and study the labels. Look for the absence of a nutrition label. Note the source, the number of sources. Visit websites. Note certifications like the premium grade designation or request an analysis. Do your homework. It matters. Arai is a family-owned motorcycle helmet company. They make the best helmets available anywhere in the world, bar none. And they have a slogan, and it says, "The helmets are only as important as what you're going to put in them." This applies very nicely to water as well. When you ingest, what you ingest is only as important as how much you value your own body, your health, and your well-being, and that of your family. Summit Spring is some of the purest natural spring water available anywhere on Earth from the best possible place for great water, Maine. Comes to you just as it bubbles from the spring. It was true over 100 years ago, and is still true to this day, and I thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to try to answer.